The GT3 Canada Championship concludes today at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. One driver has controlled the season. Scott Hargrove, in his Pfaff Castrol ride, has dominated the points since the start of the year. Can anyone challenge his dominance?
Welcome to the 12th and final round of the 2017 Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama. I'm Dave Bradley along with Kyle Marcelli. Todd Lewis is trackside. We're at a wet and rainy Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for what is the last race of the season. A season that the number 9 Pfaff Castrol Porsche of Scott Hargrove has controlled since the get-go.
Yeah, that's right. Hargrove has been calm, cool, and collective, and that Pfaff team led by Steve Bortolotti has given him all the tools to take this championship home.
Well, yesterday, the Canadian Championship took the green for the 11th race of the season. Very different conditions, as you can see. Hargrove led the pack into turn number 1 with an all-familiar sight of Zach Robichon, Michael De Quesada, and Remo Ricchetti in chase.
And good to see the 69 open road Porsche of Remo Ricchetti back up to speed after being caught out in that big accident at Watkins Glen.
Tim Sanderson in his downtown fine car Speedstar entry was the fastest out of the Masters class. The 77, though, of Patrick Dussault was new to GT3 racing at the beginning of the season. He makes gains every time out in that low zone car. There you see him chasing the 07 of Sanderson. And yet the 78 of Roman DeAngelis, a storybook season for this young driver. Once again, the class of the field in the gold class. He drove his Mark Motors car to a 4th overall finish on the day. His teammate, the 88 of Marco Cerrone, drove a clean and steady race, giving him the 2017 Masters Championship. Did everything he needed to do.
And the Mark Motors best line team of Robichon, DeAngelis, and Cerrone each had great battles in the 2017 championship, fighting in their own classes.
Here you see Neil Walker, Ori Fidani, and Peter Bolliger. They were nose to tail nearly all race as they fought for top 10 honors. The closing laps, Dussault challenged Tim Sanderson for 6th spot using all of Motorsport's corner number 8. But in the end, once again, it was the Castrol Pfaff machine of British Columbia's Scott Hargrove as he took win number 10 on the season to secure the 2017 Platinum Cup Championship.
That's exactly right, Dave. To win this championship or any championship, you have to have consistency. And that number 9 team has shown that they are the ones to beat.
With the win, Scott Hargrove has a solid 26-point lead now over Zach Robichon. Starting today, he does clinch that championship.
And both Robichon and De Quesada have 2nd and 3rd locked up. Let's look for Dussault to make a strong run at Cerrone's 4th place in the championship.
Only 2 points separate 4th and 5th in the championship. Look at the conditions here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. The drivers are strapped in as we prepare to get things underway here today, but it's going to be a tough one. And this is only the 2nd time this season that they'll be racing in wet weather conditions. Kyle, what's it like to race in the rain?
It's a challenge, Dave, especially at a high-speed circuit like CTMP. Requires a lot of mental focus. These guys up front are going to be taking a little bit extra risk and setting the bar for everybody else behind.
And you can hear now the cars have fired up here on the front straightaway at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We'll ride on board with the youngster Roman DeAngelis. We'll also have onboard cameras with Patrick Dussault and several other drivers throughout the field. Give us an interesting point of view as they head into turn number 1 for the first time with a very, very wet circuit here today.
With nothing to lose, Zach needs to turn up the wick of aggression. Let's see if he can take the lead as we head into turn 1 here today.
See the cars start to roll. Kyle, what are they going to be doing in the warm-up lap? How much temperature can you get into these Yokohama tires in a short period of time?
That's always the trick, and you know, much like dry conditions, it's those who can get up to speed quick in that first lap while tires are cold. it's going to make the difference.
Tires are cold, the track is cold as well, as you see Sanderson sort of gingerly moving the steering wheel. We'll take a look at the starting lineup today. Hargrove will start on pole. He'll have a familiar foe beside him in Zach Robichon in the number 98. Row number 2 has Michael De Quesada in the 31. There's Raymond Ricchetti in the 69. Looking back to row number 3, Tim Sanderson in the 07. Patrick Dussault in the 77. Those two have been around each other nearly all season long. Neil Tolman drives the 83, and Roman DeAngelis in the 78. That's the first Gold Cup car in the field. Marco Cerrone leads the Masters Championship in row number 5. Neil Walker is in the 71. Ori Fidani back behind the wheel of the 13. He's in the Gold Cup today. And Peter Balget in the 15. Looking back to row number 7, Ed Killeen in the 37 will round out the field, but unfortunately won't make the start here today. So you can hear the engines firing, revving up as the drivers get hard on the gas, try and get some heat in those tires, but it just gives you a very good indication of how slick this race course is.
Yeah, you touched on earlier, you see them moving the steering wheel left to right very gingerly right now, trying to feel the grip in the tire. Let's not forget also there's no traction control in these cars and no anti-lock braking system, so they're really going to have to, you know, use the footwork in the steering wheel to generate some heat right now and bring these Yokohamas up to temperature.
The good news for Scott Hargrove, he has clinched the 2017 championship, so he can relax just a little bit. For Zach Robichon, though, he is tired of being the bridesmaid in 2017. He does have that one victory coming at Watkins Glen, but can he do it here today? He starts on the outside of the front row. You see the pace car preparing to pull off as the field doubles up in through turn number 8. So we ride on board with your Masters champion, Marco Cerrone, Roman DeAngelis, the Gold Cup champion as well. So champions in all classes have been crowned, but we're getting set to get things underway here today at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Off the final corner, looking for the green flag. A 45-minute timed race for the Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada. Way up on the outside is the number 98 of Zach Robichon. They touch. Him and Hargrove do it. Robichon's going to take over top spot.
So we saw Hargrove get a little bit loose there. That was just as he's starting to cross over the rubber of the dry line. You saw those Yokohamas lose grip, and he smacked into the side of Robichon, which gave him the lead.
Robichon looked like Superman way up on the outside, and that's where you want to be in a wet race, don't you?
Yeah, these guys are just trying to find the grip right now. They're on the outside, they're on the inside. The only place you don't want to be is on the typical dry racing line. That's where all the rubber is, all the oil. We've got a car off here, that's Tim Sanderson, looks like turn 3.
And he's stuck in the mud. We've got another problem too. The 77, Patrick Dussault, up against the tire wall. Caught out by a wet track, 2 drivers in the early going. Roman DeAngelis, though, up to 3rd spot, surprisingly, in that Gold Cup car.
That's an impressive start for Roman. We talked about rain. It's the great equalizer. You know, oh, we got another spin here. This is in 5C, probably the lowest part of the circuit. Generally, a bit of a river flows across the track. Looks like it caught the 31 out.
That's Michael De Quesada in the Porsche Center Oakville entry. Number 31 from Tampa, Florida. He'll get things righted down the backstretch. You saw the marshals waving the yellow flag. We do have a full course caution now. Less than 2 minutes into this one. Zachary Robichon is your race leader. Scott Hargrove holding down 2nd spot. And De Quesada was up inside the top 5 at the time of that spin. Roman DeAngelis is now in 3rd as we'll have a safety car come out and pace the field as we get a couple of entries cleaned up. This is all in turn number 3. You see the 07 of Sanderson up against the concrete wall. The 77 of Patrick Dussault on the tire wall.
So this is Sanderson we're on board with now. It looks like just coming out of turn 2 on the entry to turn 3. Might have got that right rear on the rumble strips, the paint, which is very slippery, and it broke the rear wheels loose.
Doesn't look like much of a hit, but when you hit a concrete wall, it thumps you pretty good, doesn't it? Here's what happened to Patrick Dussault.
Now with Dussault, it looks like when he got on the brakes, he had grip, but maybe missed a bit of a downshift. You saw the rear end shatter a bit, lost grip, and sent him straight off.
Yeah, there's really nothing you can do once you get on the grass, is there? You're pretty much hanging on and enjoying the ride.
If anything, you're going to start going faster.
And unfortunately for Dussault, he ends up deep in the tire wall. Tim Sanderson up against the concrete wall as the safety crew is out. Both drivers are okay, but have another look at what happened here to the 31 of Michael De Quesada.
You see these guys working the wheel, trying to find the grip. That was a great move by De Quesada up the inside into 5C. But as I touched on earlier, there's a lot of the water, standing water that flows across the track there, and looks like it caught him out.
It's such a difficult track in the dry conditions when you add in the element of rain. You have the elevation changes, you have standing water, you have lots of other variables to contend with, and that's exactly what the drivers are doing here in the Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama. This Porsche Canada GT3 telecast on TSN from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park is brought to you by Porsche. The field still being paced by the safety car as we remain under caution. A couple of spins here in the wet track as Tim Sanderson will get a lift from the safety crew and head back to the paddock. It looks like his day is done early. Have another look at the initial start, though, and watch the 98 of Robichon.
So we see Robichon, he's on the preferred line right now on the outside where there's a little more grip. You see Hargrove is right on the dry line in the rear, just gets loose as he's on top of the rubber, gets into Robichon a bit. Good thing Robichon didn't actually lose grip up on the curb.
Riding on board with Hargrove. And now with Robichon, you see him way up on the outside, and there's the contact. And you're right, Robichon was right up on that curb, and you mentioned it's quite slick out there in the rain. Hargrove tried to come back on the inside. There's just no stick down there at all, is there?
That's absolutely right, Dave. You know, the outside line generally is the preferred line. Here we see the 77 in pit lane being worked on. Every point matters, and let's see if they can get this car back on track.
Well, you can see the left front is the big problem area for that car, and Patrick Dussault is chasing Marco Cerrone for 4th place in the championship. Every season, Porsche Canada gives out the Spirit of Speed Award to a well-deserving team. This year, Porsche Canada looked to make that award even more special. They commissioned a different Spirit of Speed Award. It's been created by a Toronto-based artist, Brian Leach.
Power behind the speed is the muscle. My whole thing was to like make it look like it's a muscle, sort of flexing on the track.
The 2017 Spirit of Speed Award goes to Downtown Porsche and the Speedstar Group.
Speedstar preps the car for the Downtown Porsche Group out of Toronto, and Tim Sanderson is their driver. Very cool. What a unique award. Good for those guys.
And very much well-deserved. So one driver out of this one is the driver, the 77.
With Patrick Dussault out of the car, take us through what happened in these very difficult conditions.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a hard time to keep the car on track. we're a bit 3 wide nearly. I didn't know where anybody was. I was behind Roman. He had a good start. And then from where I tried to stop the car, it was very slippery, and then I had to put my car where it was because we were kind of 3 wide. So it was, for me, I mean, consider replay. I don't know how many wide we were. Maybe it was alone, but it was just the patch where I was. It was very, very slippery, and then I caught it, and then I fell off again on where the grip is on the dry, so it was a bit slippery, and then I fell off the grass. The car is fine. It's just we just barely hit the tires, so we didn't hit the wall. It was just buried in the tires. So it's a shame because the car was ready to go back, but it's just there's a bracket rubbing off the tires, so we don't want to take any chances for a puncture.
Difficult way for the season to end for Patrick Dussault.
Driver that learned a lot here in 2017. We look forward to having him back in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama in 2018. Getting set for the restart. The clock has continued to tick. We're just under half an hour left now in this race. Green flag back out. Zachary Robichon takes him into turn number 1.
The 98 looks very confident in these wet conditions. We saw just in the opening lap the gap that was built, and again here just in 2 corners he's got 10 car lengths.
And you can see sitting in 3rd spot is the 78 of Roman DeAngelis, the teenager. But what's interesting here, he's in a Gold Cup car. That's down on horsepower a little bit from these Platinum Cup cars. 485 horsepower in the top 2 entries, but that 78 down a little bit on horsepower. That's going to help him here today.
Yeah, Roman is doing an incredible job, and if I was in his shoes right now, these are the conditions I would want. A great equalizer. You know, the new generation cars aren't able to put the power down as good as they can because of these wet conditions. That's allowing DeAngelis to really show what he's got. And
DeAngelis is pressuring this year's champion, Scott Hargrove, who's been absolutely dominant in 2017, is now under fire. But look at the 31, Michael De Quesada, who had trouble just while that caution was outspun on the straightaway, and now he's working his way back up through the field. Driver out of Porsche Center Oakville is working his way up just outside of the top 10. Now there is your race leader, though, Zachary Robichon from Ottawa, Ontario, in the Mark Motors entry, looking for win number 2 in 2017, and he got a little bit of a wiggle there in turn number 10. DeAngelis way up on the outside and into 2nd spot.
Again, very impressive drive here from DeAngelis in the opening stages of this race. These guys are trying to find the grip right now. You see them all over the track, inside, outside. Right now, DeAngelis is making it work, as is Robichon. Hargrove's still trying to find, you know, the best grip on track or where his car's working.
Is he taking it easy on purpose, or are they just struggling today?
Well, he's got nothing to prove, right? He's already got the championship wrapped up, so, you know, if I'm Hargrove, it's just a matter of keeping the car on track and not take any risks.
3.4 seconds, the gap between 1st place to 2nd place. A pair of Mark Motors entries, the top 2. There is Remo Ricchetti in the number 69. You remember he missed a few races after a big incident at Watkins Glen, but coming into this weekend, he had raced 6 times in this series. He stood on the podium 5 times.
Yeah, no, Remo's a guy with a lot of experience in different championships in different cars. I'm sure he's driven in wet conditions a number of times, but here at CTMP in a Porsche Cup car, it's a different ball game, and I don't know if he's done that before.
Watch him wrestle it down the back straightaway. There is DeAngelis, not only racing in the Porsche GT3 Cup Canada Challenge, but also in the U.S. this year, and he has the opportunity to not only clinch this championship, but potentially the U.S. championship as well. And if you throw in the Formula 1600 races that he's doing in Quebec, he's a pretty busy driver, but if crowned champion in both the U.S. and Canadian series, he would be the first driver ever to win that honor. On board his teammate, Marco Cerrone.
Yeah, we saw Cerrone just coming into turn 8. They're one of the fastest corners on the track, off throttle, just letting the car roll, leaning on the tire again, trying to find that grip level. Let's not forget also, some of these cars, you know, they're going to have different setups. Some might be softer, some might be a little stiffer. And in these conditions, a softer car is going to work. More often than not, we'll look at disconnecting anti-roll bars, or we'll look at our spring rates. We'll look at standing the tire up and take some of the camber out and open up the contact patch of these Yokohamas on the track.
And how much would you know just sort of instinctively to do. I mean, you don't have a lot of testing time in the rain. Obviously, we haven't had a lot of racing time in the rain here in 2017.
Some of it's trial and error, some of it's engineering, you know, and some of it's a matter of just looking at the forecast and taking a bit of a gamble on the conditions you're going to have. You know, if this stays wet the entire time, that softer package is going to be the one that works.
Battle for 8th spot now between Peter Balger and the 13 of Ori Fidani. Fidani in the Gold Cup car, Balger in the Platinum Cup car. Good story behind Peter Balger, a lover of cars for many, many years. He actually used to spot for Greg Moore in the IndyCar series more than a few years ago. Good friends with Greg's dad, and decided to get back behind the wheel here in 2017. Chose the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama to do exactly that. There's your race leader. Zachary Robichon continues to pace the field. He is quicker than Roman DeAngelis on his best lap by 3 seconds, believe it or not.
That's a big number, and we can see here today this is exactly what Robichon needed to do. He needed to turn up the wick on aggression, put a stamp on this championship that he was a race winner, a multiple race winner here in the Porsche Cup Canada.
Big surprise is Scott Hargrove is almost 10 seconds back of the leader. There he is in the Castrol Pfaff entry, the number 9. He sits in 3rd, but he has some ground to make up. Robichon continues to lead. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in the final race of the season for the Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama as we ride on board Marco Cironi. It looks to me like conditions are getting just a little bit better out there. You still see the spray off the tires, but you don't see the drivers having to manhandle these cars as much as they did before. But Cironi is in quite the battle for 6th spot with Max Tolman.
Yeah, that's right. We're seeing a few good battles all throughout the race here today. With the conditions starting to maybe dry up just a little bit, lap times are getting a bit quicker. Guys are taking a little bit more risk.
It is still raining, just not as hard as it was earlier, but it is good to see both Tolman Walker entries here today. Both have had some trouble over the course of the 2017 season. One involved in a big crash in Watkins Glen. Another one had it off in Trois-Rivières just a short time ago. Back repaired and in the race here today, and that's good news. It's a battle for 8th spot between the 15 of Peter Balger and Ori Fidani. You see Balger with the extra horsepower, a big back-end wiggle. And Neil Walker just behind them in the Toronto North entry as well. You'll see the blue car come into frame right there. And now Ori Fidani up on the outside. Again, taking advantage of a lower horsepower car. That's a Gold Cup car. You can tell by the yellow headlights. That's the best way to identify between a Platinum Cup and a Gold Cup car.
We're seeing little wiggles in these cars as they get to the bottom of the hill, the bottom of 2, the bottom of 4, 5C. Ever with the lowest part of the track where water builds and maybe is standing a bit, these cars are lacking traction.
Now, if you're asking what a Gold Cup car is, it was essentially last year's Platinum Cup entry. So a brand new car came out this year, released by Porsche Canada, and that is what the Platinum Cup drivers are using now. Last year's Platinum cars are now the Gold Cup cars, so they are down a little bit on horsepower. The new Platinum Cup cars use a 4-liter flat 6, again 485 horsepower, just under 2,700 pounds. It's amazing the power-to-weight ratio on these cars.
Let's also consider that many of the drivers in today's race have different backgrounds. Some out of go-karts, some out of single-seaters, such as a Formula 1600 or an Indy Lights even, and some with touring car experience, you know, all showing their stuff in a Porsche Cup car here today.
And how does that translate? I mean, if you're in a Formula 1600 car, like, say, Roman DeAngelis, he's been running one of those in Quebec this year, you jump back into a Porsche GT3 Cup car, can you use the experience in the Formula 1600 in this car?
You know, they're a bit apples and oranges. You know, a Formula 1600 car, for example, has no downforce. We've got to pass up the inside here into 5A.
That's Marco Cerrone and Walker, a battle for 6th position.
Good to see respect from both of the competitors. Very clean pass. You know, one thing to consider as we're on board with Cerrone here is that spray coming off the lead car. It might not look like much from the broadcast or from the viewer's track side, but when you're in that car, it's a whiteout.
And the wiper does as much as it can. I mean, it's surprising how effective it is, but really, it can't clean up everything. This is a good three-way battle, though, between Balger, Ori Fidani, and that's the 71 of Walker. They're still nose to tail. They have been for the last couple of laps. And if you look at the time left in this race, we're now under 20 minutes to go. And here comes your race leader. Zachary Robichaud is chasing them. As we watch the leader come, here comes Walker up on the outside of Ori Fidani, using that extra horsepower down the back straightaway. And that's just about the only place you can use it here today. There is your race leader. So smooth is Zachary Robichaud, gaining ground. And he'll move around the 13 of Ori Fidani and cut through lap traffic. He's got to be careful here, though. If you're a race leader, Kyle, and you come up on lap traffic and you come up on them as quickly as Zachary Robichaud did, do you take a breath or do you just attack as Robichaud did?
Well, as we just saw, we can see the focus in Zach's eyes. You know, he is on a mission today to win this race, and he's doing what he has to. He looks very comfortable, very confident in his car.
He's the only driver to turn a lap under 1 minute 37 seconds. He has a 12-second lead, a little bit more than 12 seconds. 15 seconds back to 3rd place, Scott Hargrove, who's struggling here today. But it's just a pleasure to watch Zachary Robichaud, the Mark Motors entry, drive in the rain here today. So smooth and so quick. You remember he won twice here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in the 2016 season, so relying a little bit of that experience.
Yeah, this is a place that he definitely looks comfortable. He's got a lot of experience here at CTMP, especially grassroots racing Formula 1600s, and that's really paying off today.
I talked to him in the paddock area before this race started, and he said, you know what, we missed it in the earlier race this weekend. We're hoping the rain will help us out today, and it appears it's doing exactly that. Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Racing on TSN. I'm Dave Bradley. Along with me in the booth is Kyle Marcelli. Todd Lewis is pitside. And Roman DeAngelis is now in that pack of lap cars. DeAngelis in the 78, sitting in 2nd spot. Great run for the 16-year-old. And an interesting story about Roman DeAngelis. Talking to his dad, DeAngelis has to maintain straight A's in school to be able to race. Not only that, he holds down a part-time job making pizzas. So he's not only racing essentially around North America, he's got a job like a regular 16-year-old, and he's got to go to school like a regular 16-year-old.
Now we ride on board of the number 9 Faf Castrol entry of Scott Hargrove as he makes his way through traffic, sitting in the 3rd spot.
And you can see the spray is getting a little lighter around the track as Scott Hargrove now heads down the Andretti straightaway. The wiper's still working, though. And Remo Rusciani in the open road, number 69, a 4th place run here today. That's where he sits. He's having a very, very good run in very difficult conditions.
Yeah, we can see that number 69 is really struggling to put power down out of turn 5C.
But at the beginning of the season, if you talk to Remo, he told you, all I want to do is just essentially learn the car this year. I want to get as much knowledge as I can, and he's doing that here today. He's getting his knowledge in the rain. He's figuring it out. 5th spot is the 31 of Michael De Quesada as we continue to work back through the field. De Quesada problems a little bit earlier on in this race, but back up inside the top 5, so having a pretty solid run in the Porsche Center Oakville entry. De Casada, another one of the young drivers coming into this season, has grown in leaps and bounds. Of course, that car, or essentially that team, won the championship last year with Daniel Morad at the wheel. So he's got a lot of knowledge to pull on from the team, and he seems to be putting it to good use here today. There's a good look at your 6th place driver, the number 83 of Max Tolman, driver from Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. And this battle involves his teammate in the 71, Neil Walker. Peter Balger just ahead in the 15. Ori Fidani in there in the 13 as well. That's a battle for 8th spot.
One of the biggest challenges about driving in the rain is the mental focus that's required. You know, conditions are changing lap after lap, and the drivers need to adapt and need to understand or remember what the conditions were like the last time through, and maybe they're going to be a little bit different this time through a particular corner.
Physically, though, is it easier than racing in a dry track?
Physically, yes, but as I touched on, mentally, much more exhausting, and it feels like a longer race because of that.
Remo Ricchetti in the open row number 69 as he works through that pack of lap cars. Ricchetti sitting in 4th spot, so it breaks up that pack just a little bit as Peter Balger manages to get a few car length lead. There is your race leader, and he continues to dominate today's race. The number 98 Mark Motors entry of Zachary Robichon. He's almost 15 seconds ahead of his teammate Roman DeAngelis, who holds down 2nd spot. Scott Hargrove is in 3rd. But boy, Robichon is putting on a clinic here today. It's the finale of the Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in the 12th and final race of the 2017 Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada, presented by Yokohama. Roman DeAngelis in his Gold Cup car sits in 2nd spot, chasing down teammate Zach Robichon, who has led every single lap so far.
We're seeing the number 78 of Roman DeAngelis come up on his teammate Marco Cerrone.
That battle between Walker and Peter Balger continues, and now it's Walker who gets the upper hand around the outside of the 15 of Balger into turn number 5. Ori Fidani not far behind. These three might as well be glued together here today.
These three look like they're having a lot of fun out there, showing a lot of respect with one another, having a great race.
You know what's interesting, if we look back to that battle between Roman DeAngelis and the 88 of Marco Cerrone. Cerrone is actually DeAngelis' mentor. He got him into the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada Series not too long ago. They both raced in a 500-mile endurance race. They finished 2nd. Cerrone said, you know what? We need to give this kid a ride. And that's exactly how DeAngelis found himself behind the wheel of a Mark Motors entry. DeAngelis has made his way past, and there is the 9 of Scott Hargrove, who is starting to catch the youngster. So as the circuit dries out a little bit, the champ comes to the top, and Scott Hargrove is starting to lay down some pretty quick laps. His last lap about a second quicker than Roman DeAngelis.
Yeah, this is interesting stuff here to watch. Let's not forget there was some lap traffic involved. Maybe that just held DeAngelis up a little bit. But that number 9 car has had no one to chase all year long. You know, today he finds himself in 3rd place. At first, I thought he's just doing what he needs to do, keeping the car on track, not making mistakes, and take this championship home. But now we're seeing him turn up that wick and hunting down 2nd place.
Difference between those two drivers, less than 2 seconds now with under 10 minutes to go in this 45-minute time race. You see the Faf Castrol Porsche entry, the number 9 of Scott Hargrove. He sits in 3rd, but he has 2nd place in his sights. Hargrove gains a lot of ground under braking. as the aggression starts to show. This is the Hargrove we've seen every single stop in 2017. Way out on the outside, though. So the car not helping him out here as Scott Hargrove starts to push, but the car not up to the task, it seems.
You know, we touched on earlier, this is just the second rain race all season, right? They had a little bit of wet conditions at Watkins Glen, but not a lot of experience for these engineers or teams to get a wet setup on the car. Maybe Scott's car was just tuned a little more for the dry, and with conditions drying up lap after lap, he's found himself with a better car beneath him. He certainly has a lot more aggression in his driving style. We're seeing that as he chases down Roman DeAngelis.
Do you have any options to change any set of items on the car over the course of a race?
They can adjust their brake bias, but that's really just about it. And in wet conditions, you'll generally go a little bit more rearward to prevent front lockups.
Looks like Scott Hargrove not worried about a car that may not be performing. He's continuing to attack, and he continues to close the gap on Roman DeAngelis. It's for a driver, when you sit behind another car that you're chasing on the track, it's really hard to go easy, isn't it? You smell blood when you're in that water.
We can see the horsepower of that number 9 Pfaff Castrol entry up the back straightaway and into turn 8. As he makes a nice move down the inside, transitions to the outside where there's a bit more grip. We see him here on the outside again of turn 9, finding more grip.
Roman DeAngelis very careful following the Pfaff Castrol entry in through turn number 10. So Hargrove now up to second spot, DeAngelis back to third. So the Pfaff entry breaks up the two Mark Motors, the Mark Motors train at the front of the field.
It'll be interesting to watch now how DeAngelis handles the situation, if he's going to continue to put the pressure on Hargrove and try to get that spot back.
Hargrove using that extreme outside line over the paint in turn number 2. And slides a little bit on corner exit as he works his way into turn number 3. And Hargrove with a wiggle way up on the outside. He's got 2 wheels in the grass, now 4 as he's going for a ride.
That's exactly what he does not need to do on a day like today. He's already got the championship wrapped up.
How did he hang on to that?
No need to take big risks, but I tell you what, that was a great job to save that, because usually the cars just go quicker on the grass.
Now watch here. So he gets on the brakes and the backhand wiggles just a little bit. And that's all it took to get this car out in the grass. But did he do a whale of a job hanging on to it?
He sure did. I was going to comment as he was coming down turn 2. You can see him get a little bit loose there, and then again braking for 3. Just lacks a little bit of traction. And drops the wheel at about the apex, or just past the apex point of turn 3. A great job to save it and get it back on track. Unfortunately, now we see Ori Fidani off. It looks like turn 5.
Into the gravel trap in turn 5. So that's going to be a problem, as these cars not usually very good at getting out of the gravel traps on their own. Scott Hargrove has maintained third spot, but we'll keep an eye on that car. It bounced pretty heavily. Now a full course caution to remove the Pfaff number 13 of Ori Fidani. We'll have another look at what happened again. This is in turn number 5.
Well, it looks like he lost the pack he was running with and maybe just missed his braking reference for turn 5, had a front lockup, and there was no saving it after that.
Tires be a factor at this point? I mean, they've been running on these rain-treaded tires since the drop of the green.
I wouldn't be too concerned about tire temp right now. The track is still wet enough to keep these tires cool. But what a shame. Ori was having such a great run for 8th with that 3-car battle.
We should mention the safety car is out. Just over 5 minutes remain here in a 45-minute time to race. A full course caution for a stranded number 13 of Ori Fidani up in turn number 5. There he is in the gravel track. The safety crews are going to try and get to him very quickly so we can resume this race and finish under green, but this will bunch the pack. That huge lead that Zachary Robichon had built up is now gone.
This is exactly what everyone else wants, but not what the number 98 of Zach Robichon needed with 5 minutes to go.
Well, he must be brimming with confidence. He's led since the drop of the green, opened up a gap of more than 15 seconds. Zachary Robichon, the dominant one at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. good news, during that break, IMSA declared that the track is clear, and we're going to have a one-lap shootout here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park to settle things. Settle it under green, not under caution. That's great news.
So the only difference now between the start of the race and this restart is tire temp, really. These guys now have temperature in these Yokohama tires, which is going to make for a different story as the drop of the green flag.
Be interesting to see this car, the number 9 of Scott Hargrove. He bounced through the grass quite heavily. Makes you wonder if there's any damage to the underside or the splitter on that car.
Yeah, again, he did a great job saving the car. It didn't look like he lost the splitter, but it's going to be interesting to see what he tries to do now on the restart, whether he settles in third or attacks for second.
Through turn number 10, we're looking for the green flag once again in the restart here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We're back underway. Robichaux into turn 1. He's got DeAngelis and Hargrove right behind. Remember, it's a one-lap shootout for the win.
You know DeAngelis wants this bad. Remember, he's in a Gold Cup entry. This is huge for him to be able to show his stuff up front with these Platinum Cup entries.
And he is gaining on the 98 of Zachary Robichaux. Into turn number 3. This is a great passing opportunity if he can make it stick. He closed the gap. He's right on the back bumper of his teammate.
Now he's dealing with a little bit of spray from the car ahead, which is going to affect his visibility. For Robichaux, if he can just get through turn 5, A, B, and C clean, he'll have the power, hopefully, to get away from DeAngelis.
Hargrove seems content to sit in third spot and just wait to see how this two-car front battle plays out. But Robichaux did what he needed to do. He gets on the power early and heads down the back straightaway. This will be his advantage. 485 horsepower at his beck and call in that Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. And here comes Hargrove looking for second. On the outside, Hargrove will touch the grass again, and he goes straight through turn number 8 into the runoff area.
Another big moment. I'm really surprised to see him take risks here on the last lap, but again, he does have nothing to lose.
He is an aggressive driver, but Zachary Robichaux has been the man of the hour here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and he'll take win number 2 on the season and cap the 2017 season in victory lane. A great run for Roman DeAngelis in the 78. He'll come home second, winning the Gold Cup class, and Scott Hargrove, your champion for 2017, will finish in third spot. Have another look at what happened here in turn number 8.
Well, that was an impressive and optimistic move around the outside. I thought he was going to hold it, but he just ran a bit wide, maybe got distracted, looking a bit to the outside of the track, lost the car, was able to save it and take home third.
So there is your race winner, leading every single lap today. We'll talk to Zachary Robichaux when we return. '25-year-old Zachary Robichaux from Ottawa, Ontario, 2 wins in 2016, and now he's secured his second win of 2017. Todd?
For the final race of the year, Zachary Robichaux comes out, the number 1 signal as he climbs out of the car, a warm embrace from his teammates and his team, and he will celebrate victory as we bring the GT3 Canada Championship to a conclusion here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. A moment to unbuckle the helmet, take off the Hans device, but the smile is clearly visible. Zach Robichaux waited a long time between wins this season. That was a bold move off the start, and he sure didn't want to see that yellow flag come late, I'll bet, either.
Yeah, you know, I kind of said before the race, I said, I'm going to try him in corner 1, and it worked out. Yeah, we made contact, but it was expected because I put him in an awkward position on the inside here. You have absolutely no grip, so I sort of actually straightened my car before because I thought we might touch, and after that, the car was just absolutely amazing, and you know, I kind of set his target lap time and just keep trying to hit same half-second mark. And in the rain, it's tough. You know, it's moving around a lot, but we were able to pull away and conserve our tires, which really helped us at the end. So when we had that restart, I knew I had lots of tires underneath me, and so I could push on that last lap to give a little bit of a gap. But it was it was pretty special. The team was amazing, and a really good way to cap off the season. You know, we've been chasing Scott all year, so it was good to sort of give him some of that this weekend.
Nice way to wrap up the season for Zach Robichon with a victory.
Well, he sure did show Scott Hargrove and the rest of the field the way around here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as we take a look at the final results here today. Good run for Remo Ricchetti and Michael De Casada. Good rebound after earlier problems.
Yeah, that's right, and we saw a great battle also between Walker, Balche, and Fidani. Unfortunately, Fidani lost the pack and went off track, causing that yellow with 5 minutes to go, but a good run all race for those guys.
Now still comes back with the top 10. There is the Platinum Cup podium presentations by Porsche Canada President Alexander Pollock. Big smiles on the podium here today. In 2017, the talk of the town after the Porsche Cup race at Sebring was about the 16-year-old sensation, Roman DeAngelis from Belle River, Ontario. From karts to 1600s, this talent took to the GT3 Cup car quickly and soon dominated the 2017 Gold Cup class.
A very talented youngster with great racing roots and strong family values. I can see this young man going far and representing Canada well down the road in the sports car community.
Driver of the 78 won pretty much all of the 12 races he entered and is this year's Gold Cup champion. The 88 Mark Motors entry had a proven winner behind the wheel in 2017. Marco Cerrone lined his trophy cabinet week after week as he showed why he's a proven driver in the 2017 Ultra 94 GT3 Cup Challenge Canada.
Marco's talent gets stronger and stronger every year, and the Best Line Auto Group should be proud of the work they put into the GT3 Cup effort this year.
Your 2017 Masters champion is Toronto's Marco Cerrone. The tally's all done. We can now make it official. Scott Hargrove at the top of the point standings, 25 points back to Zach Robichon.
And a great run for Marco to hold off Dussault for 4th in the championship, and also Remo Ricchetti, his first time in a GT3 Cup car. Great job for him.
Nice Western Canada representation. Hargrove, Ricchetti, and Balche all coming from the West Coast. When the black, white, and red number 9 unloaded from the FAF Motorsports hauler in 2017, it was a force to be reckoned with. Scott Hargrove transitioned well to his new team. The Castrol team gave their driver a front row machine every time out. The driver delivered. 10 wins, 2 second-place finishes. Hargrove dominated on the racetrack and took charge on the podium. The 22-year-old from Tsawwassen, BC has made his mark on the Canadian Championship and now looks beyond. But for now, Scott Hargrove is your Platinum Cup champion in 2017.
I know you wanted to wrap up the championship with another victory today and have another perfect weekend, but still, that smile says it. It's pretty satisfying to have such a strong year.
Yeah, it's satisfying to have a good year and also satisfying to have such a fun race. I mean, every time we drive these things in the rain, it's a blast. Zach had such a good car today, and he drove really well. It got around me on the start. There was a little banging, but we both held on to it, so that was pretty fun. But yeah, I just couldn't build any rear temps, so I was trying my hardest, but it wasn't much there. But I mean, all year the FAF Castrol car's just been on rails, so we'll take it. I think 2nd in Platinum, 3rd overall, and we'll be going into next year, with a championship under our belts and see what that brings. But yeah, just such a great year, and to end it this way is a lot of fun.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This TSN broadcast of the 2017 championship has been brought to you by Porsche. It was a wet and miserable day, but when you put a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car to pavement, it brings happiness to many.
That's right, a good rainy day makes for exciting racing because you just never know what's going to happen.
Some drivers had troubles going for a spin. Other drivers, troubles with the wall. Zachary Robichon, though, the man of the day, he beat the competition in dominant fashion. I'm Dave Bradley, and for Kyle Marcelli, Daniel Morad, Todd Lewis, and our entire TSN crew, we thank you for watching and look forward to bringing you the 2018 championship right here on TSN.